Alright, let me just dodge this. No problem, I'll just roll away. Ow. Help. Guys. Hello everyone and welcome. Today I answer the question, can I beat Liza P without blocking? Now, I already know what you're thinking. Doom, you complete moron. You absolute buffoon. Just dodge. And you're not wrong, but you're also not completely right. Yes, of course you can dodge, and yes, there are iframes on those dodges, but the game heavily, and I mean heavily, incentivizes a blocking-based playstyle over a dodging one. When blocking, you obviously take reduced damage from attacks, but you also have a chance to regain some of that lost health. If you've ever played Bloodborne, it's basically the rally system. Beyond that, if you time a block perfectly, you will deflect the attack, causing you to take no damage, and in some instances, breaking the enemy's weapon, causing them to deal less damage to you. But wait, there's more! If you perfectly deflect enough, the enemy can be sent into a staggerable state, allowing for a critical. You can also achieve this just by hitting them, so it's not like criticals are off the table for this run, but the combat loop of hit deflect works much better and faster than hit dodge. Basically what I'm saying is, the game looks like Bloodborne but plays like Sekiro. Anyway, there is one other mechanic in the game that makes blocking just a bit more useful than dodging. Fury attacks. Fury attacks are signified by the enemy glowing red. My first thought was that this was an indicator to get the hell out of the way, but it's actually an undodgeable attack. That's right, the enemies have attacks that you simply can't iframe through. You actually can't block them either, you have to deflect them. Which means for this run, my options are either get very far away from the enemy so the attack completely misses, or get punched in the face. Typically, the former is more preferable. Now that I have inhaled enough copium justifying this run, let's actually get into it. I ended up picking the rapier starting weapon because stamina consumption is going to be extremely important in this run. That, and honestly, the starting greatsword is absolute trash. It just does so little damage for the amount of stamina and time it takes to swing. In fact, initially, I just thought strength weapons weren't a viable playstyle, like, at all, but there are a couple good ones. It just really wasn't the play for this challenge. Anyway, I think it's finally time to talk about the first boss, the Parade Master. He's easy. His attacks are all slow and thus easy to dodge. In phase 1, he does have an overhead slam fury attack. To avoid it, you just back up. Phase 2, things get a little more frantic because he's literally lost his mind, but I get an early stance break that leads to big damage. He now has a sweeping fury attack that, again, the only way to dodge is to get away from. In the end, though, the first boss goes down. Hotel Krat? More like Hotel Crap. Have you seen how much garbage is laying around outside? Anyway, this is where we are introduced to this game's, I don't know what to call it. It isn't exactly a morality system, even though it's based on telling lies or the truth. Honestly, for being part of the namesake of the game, telling lies isn't that important. All it does is give you access to the true ending of the game. Whatever, here we have our hub area, complete with shop, blacksmith, various NPCs that will join us as our adventure continues, and a firekeeper. In other words, I lied to you all. This is actually a video over Dark Souls 3. I'm kidding, and I don't want to strictly compare this game to any of the Souls titles because that isn't fair to it, even though it totally does have Dark Souls 3's poise, and by that I mean no poise at all. Which, to be fair, I am out here fighting Metatron and monsters in a blouse, so I kind of expect to get smacked around, but when combined with the insane tracking some of the enemies have, it's a bad time. Like, I mean, look at this. Look at how tightly this enemy turns to try and hit me. It's kinda ridiculous. That being said, that's kind of my only criticism of the game, and it only matters when you're attempting to take on multiple enemies at once, which is not a very common occurrence. Overall, Liza P is a fantastic Souls-like and game in general, and I recommend it to anyone interested. Moving on to the next minor threat in the game, I face the Mad Donkey. Guess Dragon took the kids and left. Would you like to know my amazing strategy for this one? It was run behind him and backstab him repeatedly. That's pretty effective, but I will say the backstabs are oddly precise. Like, even though you're definitely standing behind the enemy, the game just says no. It's fine though, he goes down without a problem. I didn't end up using the puppet string Legion arm a lot, but I will say it's damn fun to pretend to be Scorpion. I grab the broken baby puppet and return to the nice old lady in the window where I proceed to tell her the most common lie in existence. With that, I am ready to take on the next boss, the Scrapped Watchman. I love the design of this guy, but to be fair, I can say that about pretty much every boss in this game. By my count, he has at least 3 fury attacks. The easiest one to deal with is his double hand slam, which itself is preceded by doing a single hand slam with each arm. Keep this in mind for later. It's gonna be important. The counter for this is to just run away after the second hand slam. He doesn't get a lot of distance with the actual fury attack, so it's fine. Next up, he has this jump slam thing. The counter, don't be underneath him when he jumps. I know that sounds like a joke, but for me, he only did that attack when I was right next to him, and at that point, it's kinda too late. I'm pretty sure he also has one where he jumps into the air doing flips at you, but I actually managed to down him on my first try without seeing that, so the counter is, Beat boss before he can beat you? Right. Moving on, we are introduced to the P organ upgrade system, something I wish I had in real life. These are essentially perks and skill points. Some of them are kinda useless, others are damn near vital, but the hardest part about deciding which one to get is actually selecting the damn thing. The currency are quartz, which are usually dropped from bosses or strong enemies or by doing some optional side quests. Rarely they can be found in chests just out in the world. Anyway, the way it works is that each perk needs to have 2 or more attributes slotted for them to become active. Since this run was only focused on dodging, it wouldn't make sense to get any of the blocking based ones, so for my first pick I got Link Dodge, which allows me to chain 2 dodges together, because I need more reason to panic roll, right? You know, I can suspend my disbelief for a world full of angry puppets, but key dispensing payphones is where I draw the line. 3 create 1, you who open the door be one with the great ones? Oh my god, it is Bloodborne. Not gonna lie, when I first saw the puppet of the future, I was so afraid. I mean, look, he's like the size of a billboard and has wrecking balls for hands. Fortunately, he has like 5 attacks, 2 of which are trying to step on me. I quickly head back to Hotel Link where I upgrade my rapier to a +3, and while I'm here, I want to talk about the weapon assembly mechanic. I didn't use it. Basically, each weapon can be split into a blade and a handle, and you can mix and match. This actually has some interesting combos, making some weapons way stronger than they would be otherwise. However, I knew prior to this that I would be using a specific boss weapon, and boss weapons can't be disassembled, so I literally didn't touch it. I then ram more pretty rocks into my P organ and take on the next boss, Fue Koko. The main Fury attack he has is this charge across the room. Fortunately, he stops tracking you about a second before running, so it's pretty easy to just move out of the way. After that is this overhead slam. Yeah, I got nothing. It didn't help that I was laying on the ground unable to get up quickly. If only there was a way to do that. Rising dodge, perhaps. I would like to share with you some more bull that happened during this fight. At one point, he was ready to be stance broken, but did his little sprint away from me. Just look at how fast his stance recovered. I don't know if that was because he was going into phase 2, but like, that was so unbelievably short. It's fine though, because right after that, I used my Fable art for big damage, followed by a strong attack that mini staggered him, allowing for another strong attack that did break his guard. That sounds great until you realize all of those attacks combined only did like a fifth of his health. To be fair, a thin pointy stick probably wouldn't do much against iron, but whatever, he goes down on the first try. As the popular saying goes, out of the furnace and into the woods. Nothing happens here except I meet the Atoned. Luckily, I murdered that random survivor earlier who, in death, taught me the Stalker salute, so I can just pose at this mini-boss until she gives me a key. Then I take the world's slowest cable car up. Seriously, why is this here? I mean, my first thought was that it was a clever way for the game to hide loading screens, but I can only think of one other instance where you're just standing around waiting to be moved. Oh, and I mean, the game has loading screens anyway, it's not meant to be one big open world. Ah well, whatever, it's time for the game to introduce me to the next enemy type. Zombies. Yeah, you heard me right. This game's got zombies in it too. If I haven't convinced you yet, I don't know what will. I love that the counter for these guys is walking backwards. Like they'll charge and just miss. It's adorable. Anyway, on my way to the cathedral, I meet Gangio. I definitely pronounced that name right. He gives me a magical cube that will grant any wish. When I first got this, I thought it was like Elden Ring's physic, and to an extent, it is. It's a once per rest consumable that can have different effects based on which stone you put into it. The biggest difference, the stones are also a one-time use. Oh, also it takes about 10 million years just to use the damn thing, so honestly it's less of an extra heal and more of a liability. Making my way down into the pit of despair that is the cathedral, I think it's finally time to talk about status effects, because oh boy, this game has a lot of them. You got your standard fire damage, shock damage, instant death bullshit damage, but my least favorite one is probably decay. It slowly drains your health, which isn't enough to actually do anything, but it also destroys the durability of your weapon, and that ain't so slow. It sure would suck if some bosses had decay attacks, and then because you're also actively fighting the boss, your weapon degrades even faster, but surely the devs would never put something like that into the game, right? So anyway, Alidoro, the boss weapons guy. I lie to him and tell him Vanini works is safe because that's what all normal human beings would do, then purchase the Dancing One's amulet and the etiquette umbrella from him. The amulet will allow me to dodge at low stamina, and the umbrella is, well, an umbrella with a dagger on the end of it. In hindsight, it probably would have been smart to take the extreme modification amulet instead, as it increases attack power with the amount of Fable slots, but I wanted to be a fancy puppet. Human. This amulet is really heavy. It actually weighs almost 10 times as much as the one I have on, and this is where the next issue of the run comes in. See, another borrowed thing from the Souls games is the weight system. More stuff means less dodge distance, slower stamina recovery. I don't know if it affects iframes in this game, but best not to find out, believe me. Anyway, the solution is to simply upgrade my capacity, but that means I'm taking what little levels I get from other important stats like, you know, health or damage, and this is only going to get worse as I get more amulets. For now, I am able to keep my weight under the 60% threshold, and with with that, I think it's time for the next boss, Andreas. Two big problems in this fight. One, a couple of his fury attacks are fast and happen when you're right underneath him, and two, his tongue can inflict decay. So that's fun. I love resource management in my boss fights. Two of the three fury attacks, however, are rather quick, so if you aren't already away from him, yeah. The third one happens in phase 2, where you should absolutely be fighting the butthead head and not the snakehead head. He'll get up and kind of stagger around for 2 steps before crashing down. It's really easy to just walk under him to reposition when he does this. At this point, assuming you've mastered phase 1, the fight's basically free. The only additional attack his butt has is a massive laser. To avoid it, you just run under him when he fires it, then run out from under him when he falls. With that, the Archbishop goes down on the second try. I make a quick stop to lie to Alidoro, but he's smart and doesn't believe me, causing him to go to the hotel, to which I talk to him and buy the Nameless One's amulet. This will allow my Estus Flask, pulse cells, to occasionally not be consumed on use. There's no way to guarantee that'll happen, but it's always a pleasant surprise when it does. Hey, aren't you two the ones that watched me get pummeled by that fire machine earlier? Well, no hard feelings, I'm sure you were busy. Let's join up and fight the infection. Well, that union was short-lived, I guess, but that's fine because in this courtyard is a very special treasure chest. This one right here because it contains quartz. Why is that special, you ask? Because this is the last quartz I need to unlock the rising dodge ability, so now when I'm knocked on the ground, I can quick roll to get up. You know, that thing that is a basic ass ability in literally any other Souls-like. I have zero idea why this is an upgrade and not just a basic movement ability. Not even a regular upgrade either, it's a tier 2 upgrade. You need at least 6 total quartz to get it. Like, who thought that was a good idea? To be fair, this right here is like my only actual real complaint with the design of the game. And yeah, I definitely think it is a stupid design choice, so game's doing pretty good if that's my only issue. Especially considering the next boss is a gank fight and I'm not complaining about it. Hey, Doomwell from the future here. So as I was finishing up editing this video, NeoWiz actually released update 1.3.0 for the game, which adds Rising Dodge as a basic ability. Yeah, so thanks for that. No, really, I'm not salty. That is actually a fantastic quality of life change. I mean, it completely nullifies the rant I just had, but whatever. Anyway, back to you, Past Doom. The Black Rabbit Brotherhood is a set of 4 NPCs, but only the big one is the boss. I guess because he's the oldest. He has a couple of fury attacks. The first is a big downward slam, but it's telegraphed by 3 slams before it, so it's not hard to recognize and just outspace. The second is this spin slash where he'll do it whenever he feels like it, really. So it can be hard to dodge if you're not already at mid-range. So the main gimmick here is that the other members of the Brotherhood will join in. However, unlike a certain god-slaying pair, in this fight they actually don't attack at the same time. Basically, the focus shifts to the ad and the boss just kind of hangs out in the background. He will occasionally do a charge attack, so you can't just ignore him, but aside from that, he's pretty passive. The easiest way to deal with the other members are to backstab them, which is also kind of ironically the hardest way to deal with them because the backstabs are just a right pain in the dick to land. If you try to burst down the main boss, you'll end up in a 4v1, which I strongly don't recommend, but if you keep your cool, then you should be able to make it to the end of the fight where you forget your spacing, then have your back to the wall while the boss is doing a fury attack. Awesome, I love this game. Next try goes much better, and by that I mean I won. And I even realized there was a way to dodge a spinning attack. I mean, it would have been nice to know like 15 minutes ago, but it's fine, a victory is a victory. The remaining members vow to get their revenge, but as we all know, bosses never get reused in these games, so I'm sure they're all just talk. I then take an elevator up and find a tree that literally grows golden coins. Guys, I think this will have horrible ramifications for the economy of Krot. But I guess we have more pressing matters at hand though, don't we? Next up is Fabulous Rosa Isabelle Street. Nothing happened here. The most exciting thing was doing the death waltz with the white lady. I also helped Julian the gentleman, who is clearly a Ronnie stan by the fact that he was married to a puppet, and it's okay, I get it. I also think blue-haired puppets are cool. The mad clown puppet is, well, he's way more annoying without being able to deflect his punches. It was also at this point I realized my weapon is kinda trash. Like, I feel like I'm doing practically nothing to these enemies, which is weird because when I first played this game, I also used the umbrella and it was tearing things apart. Well, whatever, he drops a quartz, and with this one, I'm able to unlock another amulet slot, which for the time being, I will simply equip the Puppet Destroyer's amulet for more damage, as the next boss is, you guessed it, a puppet. But not just any puppet, he is the king of puppets. Phase 1 is pretty free, but I will say his fury attacks cover a huge range. Like a third of the room kind of huge. Which of course means they are impossible to get away from unless you're already really far away from him. Fortunately, his face slam one actually does have a blind spot directly in front of him. I definitely found that fact out on purpose, and it wasn't just me flailing around trying not to get hit. Honestly, aside from that, there isn't much to say about the king. All of his attacks are slow and telegraphed. It does kind of suck that when he goes on a rampage, he essentially gains a double hitbox on some attacks, but it's ultimately the same dodge, but with a tighter window. So let's talk about Romeo. I love him, but alas, he must perish, for he is a puppet and I am a Montague, or something like that. I don't know, I didn't pay attention in English class. My least favorite thing about this fight is honestly just that it's completely different than phase 1, so nothing you learned carries over, essentially meaning it's 2 different bosses in a row. The game has a couple encounters like this, and fortunately the phase 1 is usually pretty easy, but it's still annoying when you fail and have to do them both again. Anyway, Romeo here has a couple fury attacks. Thankfully, they're both easy to dodge. The first is this acrobatic kick. Like Fuecoco, he stops tracking you for a second just before the attack comes out, so it's actually possible to just sidestep with good timing, or just being far away from him. The second is this big leap attack, which is so telegraphed the US Postal Service had to ask for stamps. The real issue is when he buffs his scythe as he launches into a flurry of attacks that all have varying timing. Fortunately, the solution is to run away like a little bitch. I'm not even joking, you can outspace this just by running away in a large circle until the final 3 hits where you actually have to dodge them. Near the end of my successful attempt, I saw an attack that I've never seen him do before, where he seemed to charge up a swing, perhaps it was a grab, I don't know, then he threw his scythe at me. It caught me off guard, but fortunately I was able to get a mini stagger on him and he was low enough that I just dethroned the king. Best part about this? The Puppet Ripper. I don't think this is considered the best weapon in the game, but damn if it doesn't look cool, and it has a super secret attack. The charge attack can hit enemies through walls. Okay, that's not actually why the charge attack is good, but it is nice for kiting enemies around. The actual reason it's good is because it effectively means I can outrange enemies and break their stance from a distance, which is particularly useful on, well, honestly, pretty much any enemy. Next up is the Grand Exhibition, and I sure do love me some grandness and exhibitions, but I'm a bit hesitant on the though. I love that this dude just decided he didn't want to deal with my bullshit and turned and walked away. Honestly, I respect it. Hello, Belle. I take it there's a beast nearby you would like me to handle? Wait, does that make me Gaston? This is getting kind of confusing. I feel like I'm in a Kingdom Hearts level. Whatever. Champion Victor. Or should I call him Champion Soon to be Defeated? 10 out of 10 joke, that one. If memory serves correctly, this boss is the only one in the game that has a phase transition at half health. I guess it's because his second phase is the same as the first with longer combos? I don't really know. What I do know is he has a lot of attacks, but really the only one to look out for is this specific fury attack. He'll jump forward with an uppercut and punch you into the stratosphere. This is rather fast and got me killed several times. The only other thing that might be an issue is he has like a 6-hit long combo, but it always starts with him cool guy walking at you, usually accompanied by a voice line, so if you recognize that and just run away, it's all good. After about 5 tries, Champion Victor gets his name legally changed to runner-up defeated. Next up is the Swamp. Nothing happened in the swamp, so let me just skip straight to the next boss and the first real issue I ran into with this run. The Green Monster of the Swamp. Super original name, guys. Couldn't have done it better myself. No, actually, though. So, all things considered, phase 1 isn't that bad. The biggest issue in a normal playthrough would probably be the fact he can inflict decay. Here though, the biggest issue is the insane amount of range he can get. First, he has a charging fury attack that if there's less than half the arena behind you, you're gonna get hit. But that's nothing compared to his slam attack. Occasionally, the boss will stand on its hind legs to slam down. This will usually end in a fury attack that has so much range, it makes Marth's melee grab look tame in comparison. The worst part is he can do this after 1 slam or 2, meaning it's not safe to try and weave attacks in and out. Aside from that though, it's not hard to dodge his normal moves. The digging one has a weird timing but doesn't do enough damage to be an actual threat, and his rampage is actually the best because you can dodge to his backside and he just can't hit you, so it's free damage. On to phase 2, where the fight becomes an actual pain in the ass. But maybe not for the reason you're thinking. First, this is just a scrapped Watchman boss from earlier with a few new tricks up its sleeve. I hope you remember the hand slam attack because it's back, and this time it's coupled with a tentacle sweep, but just like the King of Puppets, there's actually a blind spot right in front of his head. Another problem attack is when he starts charging. This is always a set of 3, with the third one being a fury attack, flail, fall, roll thing. I don't know. What I do know is that if you just sprint to keep up with him, you can usually avoid it. He also has one that is a jump, but again is solved by just running at him. His most deadly attack, however, is this one where he flips himself upside down and has a bunch of quick slashes and slams. This killed me pretty much every time I was hit by it. Possibly just a skill issue, but man did it suck. Alright, that's about it for his attacks. None of those things are like the real issue though. No. The real issue is the amount of downtime there is waiting for an opportunity to hit him. You may or may not have noticed the boss health bar is 2 shades of red. That's because in this game, enemies can regain health passively. While it's true that the boss will always be losing health if you attack, it's completely possible that they will regain most of that health lost as they launch into some 30-minute long show of an attack and you just have to sit there doing nothing. Obviously in a normal run, you could be deflecting these attacks and building up a guard break, which will immediately remove the second regenerable health bar, but I can't do that.
This was a slightly noticeable issue with the King of Puppets. An annoying yet tolerable observation here
and an absolute pain in the dick in a later fight. The counterplay I came up with was to use some kind of status effect like burn or acid to keep them from quickly regaining their health. The problem is, this issue exists in both phases, so it's just a long drawn out fight no matter how I spin it. But after an hour and a half of attempts, the green-eyed monster goes down. My reward? The katana of my dreams. Is what I would say if the amulet wasn't so damn valuable. The Ghost Walk amulet allows me to dodge fury attacks, which as you can imagine, basically solves all but one issue of this run. At the very beginning of the video, I said you can only deflect fury attacks and that there was no way to dodge them. So to all of you that commented something like, Doom, you were so dumb, just get the amulet. Gotcha. I'm just playing. I love you guys, and I definitely make real mistakes all the time. Cough, cough, Hallowed Tree Medallion, cough, cough. Anyway, moving on to the next area, it's back to Krat Central Station. Honestly, nothing exciting happens here, except I do snipe Weasel out of the air with my electric hand, and that's, neat, I guess. The first real boss is an absolute bitch, the Walker of Illusions. I hate fighting this thing, so I'm not going to. This is definitely 100% an AI exploit, but I don't care. If you climb the ladder and aggro it over to you, then go down and climb back up, its AI just breaks. It'll just sit there and let you throw whatever you want at it until it dies or you run out of things. In this case, I actually did run out of things, so I had to finish it off manually, which I almost died doing. Whatever, the next fight is much easier. The Corrupted Parade Master is just the Parade Master boss, except corrupted. I'll be honest, this fight was over so quickly I didn't really get a good look at what he did. Even watching the footage back, there isn't much to see. He can spawn an ad, but we have big sweeping attack for that. He also apparently has a grab. In no time flat, the boss falls and I am back at the hotel, where they threw me a party. Funny way to spell happy birthday, though. Under the hotel is a massive cave system and the relic of Trismegistus. It's cute that the game thinks I know what that is. Oh, a surprise box. I love surprises. Never mind, that surprise sucked. So the boss of this area is the Black Rabbit Brotherhood gank fight again. Except this time, they're all here. Whee! Thankfully, the programming of one main attacker and several backup is still true, and they do practically nothing for damage. The challenge here is making sure that when there's only one left, they're one hit away from being defeated, because then Big Bro comes out to play, and he is, a little more buff than last time. Fortunately, the fight is basically the same, except he has this blue wave attack, and extra fortunately, there's a pillar in the arena, so you know what that means. Yeah, I'm not above this. The moment there was more than one of them in the arena, any semblance of a fair fight was thrown out the window. One other thing I should have mentioned is starting from Victor, some bosses have a kind of last-ditch effort attack when their stance broken. The eldest rabbit here almost got me with it, but at the last second I remembered, and after 3 tries, he goes down. One submarine ride later, I end up on the windswept beaches of the Alchemist Isle, where the game lore dumps all over me and I completely ignore it. First boss of the area, the Door Guardian, this game's gimmick fight. Well, I use that term loosely. It's not like you need a special weapon to fight him, but he does take basically no damage until you can stance break him and then practice your side entrance lobotomy technique. Now all that's left is to climb the tower, save the princess, and fight God. You know, I wrote that as a silly joke, but actually, the only thing that happened on my ascent was that I ran into this dude who I immediately bribed to get out of a fight. So let's move on to the hardest fight in the game. Long Flight over here is one of my favorite encounters in the whole game, but not in this run. In this run, she sucks ass. So the fight is 100% meant to be a parry check. She has 2 attacks that are just long chains of swings that last, and I kid you not, more than 10 seconds. She actually has the meme 10-second long attacks. They aren't hard to avoid, you can literally just run away from her or circle strafe. So what's the problem? Well, do you remember when I said enemies passively regen health? Yeah. Like I said earlier, the solution is to infuse my weapon with acid, and well, that's about it. Just proc that and then do my best to burst her down, which I don't do enough damage to burst anything down at this point. As for her other attacks, none of them are an issue except maybe the lightning one that fans out as it can catch you if you're in a panic. The real issue of the fight is phase 2, where it just goes off the rails. It always starts the same. She'll jump up and launch a volley of electricity at the player. This is actually the best thing she can do because if you perfectly deflect it, it'll damage her. But obviously, I can't do that. I will say, it does feel cool to dodge it though. With my Fable Art attack, I am actually able to do around about 1/3 of her health right at the beginning, which is amazing as this is basically the only time I'll get to easily attack her. She does have patterns, but the first few times you fight her, it's absolutely going to feel like it's unfair and insane. Even after 4 playthroughs, honestly, it still kind of feels unfair, but it's not. Well, except for one thing. See, like I said, when you deflect the lightning volley, she loses health, which is awesome. But when you don't, I guess she heals, which is complete crap. And it wasn't a minor heal either, it was like 20% of her health. Now, to be completely fair, I am not 100% sure this is a mechanic limited to her and this attack. It might be any boss that doesn't take damage for a long time, but given how the health was restored, I don't think that's the case. Either way, because of her speed and health regen, it basically means I have to inflict some kind of damage over time on her to even have a chance. Oh, I should also mention, she can obviously inflict shock, which drains stamina recovery and Fable Arts. Yeah, maybe don't fight this boss without the flex, it's just not worth it. On the winning attempt, I clutched this out hard. She launched into the volley when I had no heals and low health. Dodging them all is the easy part, and of course she gets her health back, but when she lands, I get a mini stagger and she's ready to be stance broken. I barely managed to get a charge attack off, then immediately start running away from her because she too does the fake out, and hers is a little more immediate and a lot more deadly. After making sure I was way clear of her, I heal because I know the actual critical won't be enough to finish her. I also get a cheeky hit in beforehand because I want all the free damage I can get. As I thought, the critical didn't do it, but a single follow-up was enough. Man, I am so glad this is over. Honestly, it was the fight I was dreading for the whole run. Surely nothing will stand in my way now. Huh, my character's hair turned gray. Guess he was stressed about this run as much as I was. Further up the tower, I bribe my way out of another fight and meet dear old dad. He then asked me if he was a trustworthy father. Yeah, sure you were. Manus? What is this, Dark Souls? Honestly, I don't have much to say about this fight, which sucks because he's the penultimate battle, or, you know, the final one if you really want him to be. Okay, just let me try. Phase 1 is, he swings his big hammer around. Cool. Phase 2, he swings his big hammer around. Except Master Hand from Smash Bros. Occasionally makes a cameo. Don't get me wrong, I actually like the fight, it's just there isn't anything to talk about. In Phase 2, he has some attacks that can inflict the distortion status, which is this game's instant kill status effect, but they're really easy to dodge. And with that, Simon Manus, defeated God, goes down in just 2 attempts. Now I descend down the Soul's obligatory long elevator to the final reveal that Geppetto was the bad guy all along? No, I'm just kidding. The game straight up spells it out to you well before this. Dear old dad asked for our heart and I refuse, prompting the final fight of this run, the Nameless Puppet. This is another one of those fights that really benefit from being able to parry, and by that I mean Phase 1 is basically free if you do. Since I can't, it's a little slower, but nothing too hard. Phase 2, he just gets crazier, splitting his greatsword into 2 normal swords and doing a bunch of flips. Also, I'm not the only one that sees this as Ishin's lightning attack, am I? The only tip I have for this is just dodge to the right, like through everything. But really, just parry him. The game is way more fun if you parry, and after about 30 minutes, the Nameless Puppet falls and the run is over. Thank you everyone for watching, and an extra special thanks to my patrons. Stay beautiful, y'all. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like and subscribing. It really helps the channel out, and maybe consider checking out the time I beat Bloodborne at Blood Level 4. That was a fun and very painful run. But until next time, my friends, don't you dare go hollow.